And welcome back to Spotlight. Just for clarification, would you dip into the state's rainy day fund to help come up with more money for the infrastructure?
You know, that's why it's there. Okay, it's not a rainy day fund that sits there for years and years. I think we have to be careful and use it wisely. It's like having that 3 months of your expenses set aside for an emergency as a family person. And so I think that some are concerned that if we use it all, then if the state has an emergency, you know, they're not going to have the money. So I think we have to be careful, but I'm not afraid to dip into it.
How will you make Michigan become a top 10 education state?
We have too many kids who can't read and too many kids that are pushed off to college when they're not ready. And I think the key is teaching our kids to read. I believe we need reading coaches in the schools, an alternative certification, so you or I or any grandpa or grandma can go into the school and can read with kids one-on-one or one-on-two. So I think reading coaches is critically important. When we were growing up, we had parents that read to us. But now, with so many single-family homes, that's not happening. The reading is not happening at home. So reading coaches, I believe, is critical. We need a coordinated system between kids that are age 3 and 4 all the way up to K3, so that there's continuity as the kids get older. Sure, teachers need a teaching program for them, but we need a teaching program to teach our kids how to read. I believe it's phonics. I learned with phonics. My 2 oldest sons, who are medical doctors, we were in Africa, and my job was to homeschool them on reading, and we use phonics. They're excellent readers, and so I know it works. My father only went to 3rd grade, and I found out when I was in junior high, my dad, even though he held the newspaper up in front of him, he could not read a word. And I used phonics to help teach him how to read.
Will you have an urban agenda and will you have an agricultural agenda?
I think you have to have both. You know, they're tied, but our farmers are so critical to the economy of this state that you need to work with our farmers. I like bringing farming into the city, personally. So if you have a plot of land next to you, why not have your own garden and a community garden inside Detroit or inside any town? We have them in Saginaw. And so I think that we need to bring people together to accomplish what needs to be accomplished in the states. And so urban and rural.
All right, will you push states or cities such as Detroit to do better on mass transit?
I think mass transit is so important. You know, even getting to the studio, I looked at all these cars with, you know, just one person in the car, and I'm thinking, isn't there a better way to move people around rather than to have all these cars using all this fuel and the accidents and the wear and tear on our roads? And so I think mass transit's important. Perhaps bringing 2 mass transits together to make one that really is successful and works is perhaps a good option.
Will auto insurance reform be a priority for a governor, Dr. Hines?
Oh, it has to be. You know, auto insurance, roads, and reading are my top 3 priorities. It has to be. And I mean, there's no other way to do it. It has to be. And our auto insurance is way too expensive. In fact, it's so expensive, individuals are foregoing getting the auto insurance, which is impacting on whether they can get to work or not.
So you're ready to do an arm wrestle with Senate Majority Leader Meekhoff and say, okay, we're both for the same party, but we may see this issue differently, and we're going to have a tug of war on this.
You know, the governor is the governor of the whole state, and the governor has to make decisions and use his bully pulpit to meet the needs of the whole community. And so we have fraud in our auto insurance that has to be taken away. We need a fee schedule so that if you needed a chest x-ray, it would cost $65. But if you're in an auto accident and you have the same chest x-ray in the hospital, it's over $600. Why is that? That's crazy. It needs to be the same price. So I would start with the fraud and a fee schedule first. I think that can be accomplished, and that's a baby step. Maybe it's bigger than a baby step, and then work on other areas for auto insurance.
All right, need to take one more break. We'll come back with the final segment. Stay with us. Doctor, I'm curious to know your thoughts about the MSU settlement. You think that was a good settlement, a fair settlement? And as someone who is a practicing physician, I'm sure you've watched this from afar. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, what happened at MSU is tragic. As I have visited around the state, there are issues of sexual abuse and assault everywhere I've gone. I'm happy that they came up with a settlement, you know, $500 million. What I don't want to have happen is for them to say, okay, it's settled, now we can stop. I think there's a cultural change that needs to occur not only at MSU, but at almost all of our universities, that sexual assault is not okay. It is not okay to do these things. And when you see them, it needs to be reported. I think we need to respect women, we need to respect men. And accountability is critically important. And so I hope that the settlement doesn't cause things to cool off as far as a change in culture that we need at our universities.
How should we address school safety and make it a lot safer for our young people to get their education in school without fear of being shot or killed?
That's another tough issue. We want to keep our kids safe, and they need to be in an environment that fosters teaching and education. We don't want them worrying about, you know, a terrorist attack. I think, frankly, a lot of it's going to be district by district. I think the state should stay out of it. I think we should look at what's best practices. We should look at what's done in other states. But I believe that school districts with parents' involvement need to look at what's going to be best for their local school. There are schools, school districts in this state where the nearest police officer is 20 to 25 minutes away. And so if there was something that happened, every second helps. And so there are schools and individuals that have teachers that have military background, they've been trained, and they want to be able to protect kids. We should not force anybody to do that. No, we should not force any teachers to do that, but it should be a local decision as far as the actual protection with very good training and knowing how to diffuse situations and how to protect our kids.
If a teacher wants to arm themselves, are you comfortable with that?
I am comfortable with that as long as they've gone through the proper training, which would be very extensive. Obviously, I don't think gym teachers should be carrying a gun in their gym shorts. So it's been proposed gun safes where only that teacher or whoever has a thumbprint, and that opens it up. They maybe throw something on themselves that identifies them as a protector for our kids, and then can address the situation.
Michigan educators just recently released a study which said they want absolutely nothing to do with that, and they believe we need tougher gun laws, and that they don't want armed guards or their teachers walking around carrying guns.
It's interesting because if you look at Ohio, they have 1,000 teachers who have signed up to do this, and they're in the process of teaching everybody. So it does vary from state to state, and sometimes the leadership, because I have spoken with teachers who would like to take the training right here in Michigan, but the leadership, I think, officially has said, oh, no, we don't want anything to do with that. But the reality is that our schools are gun-free zones. Some call that a killing zone because you can go in there and not worry about being shot. And so I think we have to get grips on this. I don't believe that taking the guns away from law-abiding citizens is the answer.
You're a hunter. Would you make any significant changes in our gun laws?
I don't think so. You know, I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I would encourage school districts to really think about how they're going to protect the kids in their schools.
All right, final question. This is a lighter one. You have multiple talents. You're an airline pilot. You ride a motorcycle. You drive an RV. You're a black belt in Taekwondo. Of those things, when you aren't on the campaign trail and you aren't delivering babies, which one do you enjoy the most? Which one relaxes you the most?
I think flying, because it gives me a perspective. I just like being in the air. I originally wanted to be an astronaut until I met my wife of 43 years. She says, Jim, you are crazy. You can't be an astronaut. You don't have perfect vision. But I thought I could at least become a pilot. So I soloed my first plane when I was 16. And when I need to relax and think about things, I get in the plane. I'm one of 4 owners of an airplane, a 1972 Cessna. And I get up there and my worries just kind of melt away, and I enjoy just flying.
All right. Dr. Jim Hines, thank you so much for
you.
coming in. It's a pleasure sitting down talking with you. Good luck on the campaign trail.
Hey, I appreciate that. And of course, any of your viewers that want to see me in the airplane and look at my Super Bowl video, that's Hines4Michigan.com, Hines, the number 4, Michigan.com. And I would encourage them to check me out.
All right, we'll get it on the website. And we want to thank you at home for joining us. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more Newsmakers in the Spotlight. We hope you have a great week.